So, this episode is going to be all about negotiation, and it's going to be an amazing fucking episode. Like, there's so much great information that you can also just use in a daily day, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, on a daily basis, you can use it whenever. And it is amazing. Like, it is such an interesting thing. But there's going to be more after the intro, as always. I know, because it is a daily thing. I know, yeah. And with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And I'm actually really looking forward to this episode because I've just summarized a summary and it is like just intense. I know, it is intensely good. But before we even go through the episode, I'm having actually 3 things to talk about. The first thing is, if you're willing to listen to this, as it would be a podcast, because it actually is a podcast, then please go down into the description and check out the first link, because it is actually the link to the podcast, and you can listen to it on Spotify and on Apple Podcast and TuneIn, on Castbox, on Stitcher, on Breaker, on wherever you might be. The podcast is probably and hopefully also going to be there. The second thing is the notes, and this is a really, really incredible one. In the notes, you're going to find, and it is a link to a Google Drives folder, and it is for free. It is a PDF. You can download it, you can print it, you can do whatever with it where you want, you know? And it is basically a summary of the whole video. It is basically all the highlights that you're going to see in the video that I've made in the article that I'm first of all using for just knowing what I'm going to talk about, and second of all, for the PDF and or for the notes, so that you actually are able to only read the PDF, and that's quite it then. You know, you don't have to go through the whole article nor through the whole video, but you can also just or only just go through the PDF, and that's fine actually. The third one is add music. If you're willing to have some background music on the video or in the podcast as well, then please check out the third link. And with that being said, let's go through the good summary. And as you now can see on the left side of the screen, we're going to talk about Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, negotiator for the FBI and whatnot. He has a lot of experience. He's also having a masterclass, and I've just been actually watching a video because I've actually wanted to just have a real life application of what he's teaching. And I've found something and it's pretty interesting. You know, it's pretty good. And so he definitely knows what he's talking about as far as I can tell, and as far as I saw also how, in terms of like, if I'm thinking about that and if I'm reading that, it definitely just makes sense, you know, which is also kind of one of the reasons why I think it actually is working. So Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Life is a series of negotiations, so emotional intelligence is even more important, because if you're talking to somebody, you have to be empathetic, and it's kind of the main part of the whole fucking book. That you have to be empathetic and you have to be listening, you know, and let's talk about fucking emotional intelligence, motherfucker, and it not being something important. It is something important, and I do not necessarily want to say that it always have been important, but it definitely is important at this point in time, and it is definitely also going to be important in the future, unless we're having to just deal with robotics, the AI. I don't know if they're going to be just having an implication of emotional intelligence and empathy and feelings and whatnot. Not quite sure about that. But as long as we are just dealing with human beings, it is good. So a 24-year veteran of the FBI, Chris Voss is one of the prominent practitioners and professors of negotiation skills in the world. The founder and principal of the Black Swan Group, a consulting firm that provides training and advises Fortune 500 companies through complex negotiations. Voss has taught for many business schools, including Harvard, MIT, and a lot of other schools as well. So the summary. I just ask the same 3 or 4 open-ended questions over and over and over again. They get worn out answering and give me everything I want. Early in his career, he realized that we are not the perfect rational beings. We're just really, really irrational. It is what it is. We're just having to deal with our emotions. We are just always using our emotions to make decisions. We are so incredibly irrational. You know, we are by far not fucking rational. Even though we sometimes feel we are definitely fucking not. People want to be understood and accept that. The most effective way to get there is by listening intensely. This concept called tactical empathy is the counterpiece of this book. And as I said before, so getting what you want out of life is all about getting what you want from and with other people, which is definitely the case. Like, if you're also talking about the things that we have been talking about the last few days, actually, which is networking, which is being able to deal with people. it is something that's incredibly important. And negotiation and negotiating is definitely also a pretty big part of it, because I don't know, if you want to have a raise, you gotta have to negotiate. If you're just willing to, if you're actually debating with somebody, it is also about a negotiation. As Chris Voss actually said in kind of the the ad for his masterclass, we are negotiating like, I don't know, 7 times a day or something, at least some kind of. Like, it still depends on whatever you're doing and whatnot. But like, especially if you're a salesperson, then you gotta have to be listening. You gotta have to be empathetic. You gotta have to be a good negotiator, you know. And if you're just in sales, if you're marketing, if you're doing whatever, I think it is just something that's also really interesting to know about. Especially all these concepts that he is gonna talk about in this book here. The first step towards mastery of negotiation skills is to get over your aversion to negotiating. After all, negotiation is nothing more than communicating with results. And the first point is, be a mirror. Negotiation is not a battle, it is a process of discovery. The goal of great negotiator is to uncover as much information as possible, because we need the information. We need the information to communicate in a way that the prospect and or the other person would like to have. You know, if you know the worldviews and what is important for the person, you then also are able to just use those things in whatever you're communicating. You know, so that you, and this is also a point in the book, so that you can make the other person feel that they are in control and they get what they want. You know, if you're just talking about their stuff, if you're talking about what they actually wanted to have, so really actually want to have, and if you're incorporating that, it just makes sense that the person would like or just likes whatever you're just bringing up, kinda, whatever your offer is. That's why you shouldn't commit to your initial assumptions. So slow it down and focus immensely on the other person and what they have to say. This way the other person will feel they are being heard, building rapport and trust. You know, and trust, especially if we talk about hostage negotiation, whatnot, trust is something that's incredibly important, you know, because if we are trusting in people, then we are first of all going to say them different things. You know, we're going to tell them our worldviews, we're going to be more open, we're going to be more vulnerable. And I think we are also not feeling that bad of maybe losing out of something or losing out on something, in terms of if you're negotiating and you kinda, well, it's actually pretty complicated, because I think trust is just a really important thing, a really important factor when you're having a conversation with somebody. Because if you're trusting somebody, you're gonna communicate in a different way, and you maybe are then also gonna be like just way more on ease with the person and on yourself. You're not going to be so maybe stressed out because of the negotiation, you know, maybe. But yeah, use a different type of voice tone to get your message across. And there's 3 different types of voices that you can be using. And as I've also been just talking about before, like, tonality really fucking matters. It really is a huge part, and it really is a huge part in communicating and communicating your points and being able to communicate in a good way in terms of the other person, in terms of actually just communicating what you want to communicate. Because of course, if I'm just talking in a different way than I would be talking right now, in terms of like, okay, when I'm talking like this, I might sound a little bit sad, or I might sound just a little bit tired, you know, and I don't really think if this is something that a lot of people would like to be listening on. But if I'm talking like this, like I'm actually normally talking, which is sometimes good, which is sometimes actually kind of bad, because I tend to lose my voice quite fast, then it is something completely different. It feels different, you know? We are seeing people in a different way, and the whole message sounds different. And the whole message is different just because we're using a different tonality. And so are the 3 types, he says. The first one is the late night FM DJ voice. Use selectively to make a point. Inflect your voice downward, keeping it calm and slow. When done properly, you create an aura of authority and trustworthiness without triggering defensiveness. The second one is the positive playful voice. Should be your default voice. It is the voice of an easygoing, good-natured person. Your attitude is light and encouraging. The key here is to relax and smile while you're talking. The direct or assertive voice. Use this voice rarely, because it will cause defensiveness and create pushback. I think I've actually... Have I nailed it? Please tell me. Please tell me down in the comments, or hit me up on social media. I would actually like to know if this is the FM radio voice, you know, just speak relatively calmly and talk as if you would be like my grandpa. Or this is like the playful voice. If you're willing to do something, then just please do it or whatever. I know this assertive voice. Please fuck off. Or something. I don't fucking know. So finally, literally mirror the other person by repeating the last 1 to 3 words. He said the last 1 to 3 words of what they have said just to you. Why? Because we fear what's different and we love what is similar. It is also one of the reasons why mirroring somebody's body language is something of a pretty good tactic, that they are then gonna like you. And I'm actually, just because I've went through so many summaries and so many books and so many things on, especially actually body language and communicating and whatnot, it is so interestingly that I am actually doing this subconsciously now. Like I'm always thinking about other people's body language, and I'm also trying to kind of interpret it, how they might be feeling right now, if I should actually kind of copy their body language just because I know about fucking mirroring. And it is just an insanely fucking good skill, But I actually gotta have to try that out. What I'm seeing there is that repeat their last 3 words. For example, when somebody says, I am feeling really bad. Feeling really bad. I am feeling really bad. You might be feeling really bad because maybe something like that. Even though it depends, like you can just use those 3 words in various different ways. You can ask a question and whatnot. By using the mirroring technique, you can encourage the other side to empathize with you. Don't feel their pain, but label it. You're dealing with a person that wants to be appreciated and understood. Labeling is a way of validating someone's emotion by acknowledging it. Detect the other person's emotional state, give a name to their emotion, and show you identify with how they feel in a neutral expression. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. It seems like you're angry. It sounds like you're feeling not good. It looks like you might be in trouble. If you are saying something like that, and I might have been just talking and or reading about that in the other summary that I went through, also on a podcast about Split the Difference, but it just helps the other person to understand him or herself, which is kind of a good thing, because the other person then also feels like, as I'm just thinking about it, it is just another way to show the person that you're caring about them, and that you're not just only caring about what you want. So yeah, label it. So that they can understand it and so they can just actually really understand themselves, to be honest. And may even tell you something that you can use later in negotiation. More often than not, however, you and your counterpart will disagree, because they know that you're listening. They know that you're listening to whatever they're saying. Because if you ask, like, you seem to be like this and that, you wanna just know more, and you're just feeling really empathetic and you're just really trying to take care of them. At least this is how I'm seeing it. This is how I'm feeling about it. The best method to get fear out of the way is by performing an accusation audit. List the worst things that the other party could say about you and say them before the other person can say that. This acknowledges any negative dynamics before they take root. These accusations will often sound exaggerated when said aloud, and this way the other person will often claim that quite the opposite is the true. Which actually somebody did this to me kind of lately, and I was like, just no, not really, because it actually was the case. I've actually been like, well, no, not really, because it wasn't. It was just actually not even closely the case. But still, it is something that's pretty interesting, because if I'm remembering something Gary Vee was talking about, it is exactly what Eminem did in the 8 Miles movie. I think it's been like the last scene or something. I don't know what it actually is. I've never seen the movie. But it is like, I think, the end rap battle or whatnot. And Eminem was talking about all these things, all these negative things, and he was talking about them by himself. Like, he was talking negatively about himself so that the other person has nothing to say about him, because he already said everything. And it is just a really good tactic. And it is just insane. It is insane. Beware yes, master no. We love hearing yes. However, remember the last time a telemarketer pushed you towards agreeing so they can get your compliance and sell you the product. Do you like to drink water, Mr. Smith? When you sell tap water fillers, that will likely just paint an untrustworthy picture of yours. There are 3 kinds of yes. Guess which one you should be seeking. The first one is counterfight. Your counterpart wants to say no, but feels yes is an easier escape route, which doesn't seem that right, to be honest. I don't know if this is like just how it actually should be the case, but like the formation Is it actually formation? I'm not quite sure about that. But how the text looks like, it seems not to be quite right. And also the numbering seems to be off. But I'm not quite sure about that. Confirmation, a reflexive response to a black or white question. And or commitment, a true agreement that leads to action, a yes at the table that ends with a signature on the contract. I kind of felt like the last one was the right one, but I'm definitely not quite sure about that. On the other hand, no is not a sign of rejection. It really often just means, wait, I'm not ready, or I'm not comfortable, or I'm not whatever. It reveals the opposition's true needs and intentions, which is, as I've been also telling you before, something that's incredibly important. Saying no makes the speaker feel safe, secure, and in control. By saying what they want, your counterpart defines their space and gains the confidence and comfort to listen to you. And that is why, and this is a really important point. This is why is now a bad time to talk is always better than do we have a few minutes to talk? Because if you say, do we have a few minutes to talk? And the person says no, then it is a no. You're not going to talk with this person. But if it is a yes, it is kind of the opposite what he was just saying before. It is not like that the person or she, the person, is then able to just define their space. Even though you can also be like, well, if you're saying yes, you're also doing that. But I think a no is a way stronger word. And if you're really like, is it just bad timing to talk to you right now? And the person is like, no, everything is fine, which is most often going to be the case, as far as I have just also experienced it and with myself and also with other people, because they're saying no, that they're defining the space. No is, at least as how I'm thinking about it, I might be just kind of biased by this book summary, of course, but I kind of feel like that saying no is way stronger than saying yes. I actually don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I kind of have a feeling. Intentionally mislabeling one of their emotions or asking a ridiculous question, it seems like you want this project to fail that can only be answered negatively. Yeah, this is just a question like, you seem to be just extremely happy. Of course, I think their tonality really matters once again, just because if you're just saying it in a very ironic way and you are just in a hostage negotiation, I don't know if it is going to be the best thing to do. I wouldn't really say so. The thing is, tonality there matters, and like maybe not being too ridiculous. Of course you can be too ridiculous, but they definitely have to just say no or reply with a no, which is what you want. If a potential business partner is ignoring you, contact them with a clear and conscious no oriented question that suggests that you are ready to walk away. Even though this is not really something that I'm kind of really looking forward to doing and or just trying to do, because it kind of feels strange, to act a certain way. Some kind of, I'm gonna just act like I'm gonna just walk away if the person is being like no and whatnot. I don't know. Like I also feel like that this is my putting some pressure onto this person. But yeah. So have you given up on this project works wonders. The two words you seek are that's right. If you're just talking about transform any negotiation. Once the counterpart says or thinks those words, they have truly understood and embraced what you have said and as what you have said as their reality. So whatever you've said is just now what they think is the truth, which is going to lead to them offering you what you actually offered them, basically, in the end. Beware, you are right is the exact opposite and brings not behavioral change and no behavioral change, and it usually just another counterfight of yes. So the right one is that's right, but not you are right. And I think it's incredibly important to point that out, because you are right is like, okay, you're right, it is what it is. I do not know about that, I'm feeling uncomfortable. And there I have to say, being emotionally intelligent, having high emotional intelligence is just a really important part there. Because if you know, and if you're just hearing that, if you're kind of empathetic enough, if this is maybe the right one, I don't know, to just understand when a person is counterfighting, it is a pretty huge part there. To trigger that's right moment, pause and listen actively, sketched in chapter 2. The second one is use minimal encouragers such as yes, okay, huh, or I see. Mirror, listen and repeat back what they have said. The fourth one, label their feelings, i.e., it all seems so tragically unfair, I can now see why you sound so angry. The fifth one, paraphrase what they have said in your own words, showing you aren't merely parroting the other person. Yes, I think this is also an incredible... I actually have to say, there's a really thin line between it being okay and it working and it just being completely off and fucked up. I kind of have a feeling. The sixth one is finally summarize. Re-articulate the meaning of what is said and label the underlying emotions. In other words, repeat back the words according to your counterpart. Anyone faced with a good summary will respond, "That's right." Yes, because you've basically said what they have said. So why shouldn't they like, "Yeah, that's right"? And just thinking what it is in German then, because I'm at this point in time gonna do is more in German, I guess. Yeah. Well. Negotiations are defined by a network of underlying desires, needs, and fears just because we are all so irrational. People would take more risks to avoid a loss than to attain a gain, which is something that I've been talking about way before, but I actually have to just do some research on that. Like, I wonder why it actually is the case. I'm often just talking about just losing fruits and gaining fruits, and that it is more painful to lose a fruit than to gain a fruit, but I'm actually not quite sure about that. Like, it might not be the best example, Therefore, I might be looking that up. Figure out what they've had, what they'd hate losing, and make sure they see it as a stake during the negotiation, which is, I think, something incredibly important. And now coming back to just letting them feel that it is actually about what they want, and not about what you actually want. First, uncover the counterpart's reality and then strategize. Find out and plan accordingly. If the deadline is an imaginary one, as most often time, buy more time and watch. But if it is not, find out the plan and accordingly just use this plan and do whatever with the plan. The word fair. Tell them, let's go back to where I started treating you unfairly and we'll fix it. Or we'll fix it. If they say like fairness, or as he says, the F-bomb, the fair. Likewise, when your counterpart drops the F-bomb, don't get defensive. That's not fair, you're not fair, it is not a fair price. And tell them then, let's go back to where I started treating you unfairly and we'll fix it. It's actually a really, 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 really good answer. Because they're going to be like, well, you didn't just treat me unfairly, it's just about the price and whatnot. And then you're going to be like, well, then everything is okay, all right? Isn't it? And they're then going to, well, maybe this is maybe not the best thing to say then, but in the end, it's what you're going to think, I guess. So how you can do this, how you can bend the counterpart's reality. The first point is, before making your offer, prepare them by saying how bad it will be. I didn't really understand it in the first place, but I kind of also just understand it on the other hand. Not quite sure. Let them go first and you might get lucky with a lower offer than what you were preparing. The third one is, if you set the numbers, set an extreme anchor to make your real offer seem reasonable, or use a range to seem less aggressive. Finally, when you do talk exact numbers, use odd ones such as 37,263 because it feels like a figure that you have just calculated, and it is not like, okay, it is just what you've known before you even negotiated. Like, if you're like, okay, let's make $40,000, it is gonna feel like, okay, he knew this before and he wanted to just trick me into that and this and whatnot. No, just use odd numbers. The person listening has control in the conversation. That's because the talker is revealing information while the listener is directing the conversation. Because if you're the listener, you're probably also gonna be like asking the questions. And by asking questions, you're definitely just changing the conversation, changing how the conversation is going, like the path of the conversation. When listening, avoid questions that can be answered with yes or tiny pieces of information. Use questions with how or what by implicitly asking the other party for help. These questions will give your counterpart an illusion of control and will inspire them to talk at length or speak at length, which is going to lead you to more information, which is going to lead you to being able to ask better questions in the end. How am I supposed to do that is the greatest of all time calibrated questions suggested by the author. Other suggestions, for example, would be, so calibrated questions are all these questions with how or what. I actually have to, or open-ended questions as he says, well, I actually have to just put it also in the summary, because I've left it because of certain reasons. I don't actually know why. But other suggestions would be, what about this is important to you? How can I help to make this better for you? How would you like me to proceed? What is it that brought us into this situation? How can we solve this problem? What's the objective and what are we trying to accomplish here? The beauty of calibrated questions, they educate your counterpart on what the problem is, rather than causing conflict by telling them what the problem is. When you are attacked, in a situation, in a negotiation, ask your counterpart a calibrated question. Calibrated questions point your counterpart towards solving the problem. This encourages them to expand their energy on devising a solution for you. I know it's then not going to be about being angry and aggressive and whatever emotional reaction there might be against you or towards you, but it's going to be about finding a solution. Is to actually finally don't ask questions that start with why. It is almost always an accusation in any language. Yes, I've seen it as well. Like, why are you willing to do that? And then you have to be like, yeah, you actually have to say why it is the case and why you want to do this. And this is very personal, and it can be, especially if you're just talking to a stranger, it's gotta be too personal, and it's gotta also be about their world views. And they have to openly and vulnerably talk about their worldviews, which is something that, at least as I'm thinking about it, is not going to be something that's too good. Then probably. But yes, so stay calm. Whenever somebody is attacking you, stay calm. Guarantee execution. Yes is nothing without how. Asking how, knowing how, and defining how is a must for every negotiation. Here is an example. Ask again and again calibrated how questions. They keep your counterparts engaged but off balance. Answering the question will give them the illusion of control. It will also lead them to contemplate or even emphasize with your problems when making their demands. Use how can I do that as a gentle version of no. This will subtly push your counterparts to search for other solutions, your solutions. And very often it will get them to bid against themselves, which is something that's pretty interesting if you're thinking about it. But it is like so deeply unconscious and psychological warfare that we don't just get it. Remember, there is always people behind the curtains, affected by the negotiation. Expect for the people you're negotiating directly with. So ask how a deal will affect everybody else and how on board they are. To guarantee execution and test if the yes is a real or counterfeit, apply the rule of 3. Use calibrated questions and summarize and labels to get your counterpart to reaffirm their agreement at least 3 times. It is really hard to repeatedly lie or fake conviction. Yes, it definitely makes sense. Not gonna just lie 300 fucking times in a row. Finally, to understand if the counterpart is uncomfortable with the deal you've just agreed on, follow the 7-38-55% rule. Only 7% of a message is based on the words, while 38% comes from the tone of voice, and 55% of the speaker's body language and face. Paying close attention to their body and tonality and body language, you might discover incongruence between their words and non-verbal signs that show that they are making their true thoughts, which might lead to an unexecuted deal. How to bargain. We're actually 30 minutes in, but there's we're going to be able to finish that. Top negotiators know that conflict is often the path to great deals, which is, by the way, something that I didn't really kind of just expect to just be the case, because I'm always not trying to have any conflicts with anybody. So there's different ways people are negotiating. So there's the accommodator. As long as they are communicating, they are happy. Their goal is to be on great terms with their counterpart. The second one is assertive. Every wasted minute is wasted dollar. For them, getting the solution perfect isn't as important as getting it done. Analyst. They are methodical and diligent. Their self-image is linked to minimizing mistakes. They take as much time as it takes to get it right, which is probably going to be the most difficult one, I guess. So most importantly, have fun with it. Set your boundaries and don't get angry. The guy across the table is not the problem. It is about the situation. And this is actually one sentence and one paragraph there that's also incredibly good, because it takes off the maybe the angriness or maybe the emotions out of the game, just because it is not about the person, it's about the situation. It's not the person that is doing me this amount of pain, whatever, to me. Yes, it is about the situation, and of course the other person as well wants the best deal. So the Ackerman plan will help you get what you need from a bargain. Actually, also gonna just do that. Set your target price your goal. Then set your first offer at 65% of your target price. Something that I didn't understand there is, why should you actually be lower? Okay, it makes sense. You gotta be lower than your target price, the price that you would actually like to have, because it creates some tension. And it creates even though my real thing is $15 or something, I don't know, I can't calculate anything. And just creates an anchor, and just creates okay, I went from just $10 to 15. It is just quite something, man. Just to let you know. Calculate 3 counter offers at 85, 95, and 100%. Use empathy, calibrated questions, and different ways of saying no. When calculating the final amount, use precise non-round numbers like the $37,263 that we've had from above. On the final number, throw in a non-monetary item like maybe your car, whatever you're just dealing with, that they probably don't want to show you're at your limit. You know, if it is like your final number, if it is like your 100%, then you're gonna be like, well, this is all the money that I'm having. It is what I want to pay, but I'm just also gonna give you like I'm having a lot of fucking fruits on my tree at home, and you're gonna have just all the fruits if you're willing to have them, because you're then actually showing that it is all that you're having. And now we actually talk about something that's quite interesting because it's about black swans. And if you've just been on the channel before, I've recently gone through the Black Swan summary by I don't remember the site, but the book is by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, if I remember that correctly. So finding the black swan, the powerful unknowns, is difficult. We don't know what the treasure is, so we don't know where to dig. To uncover black swan, review everything you hear from your counterpart. You will not hear everything the first time, so double check. Compare notes with team members, use backup listeners whose job is to listen between the lines, and they will hear things you miss, which definitely makes sense in hostage negotiation and whatnot. Dig into the counterpart's worldview, their life and emotional situation. That's where black swans live. When someone seems irrational or crazy, they most likely aren't. It might be a black swan in disguise, or discuss, I'm not quite sure. Search for hidden constraints, underlying desires, and bad information. Needless to say, you need to get face time with your counterparts to analyze their verbal and non-verbal communication at unguarded moments. So the key takeaways, because it was actually this this was the summary basically. So let's talk about the conclusion and the key takeaways. Getting what you want out of life is all about getting what you want from and with other people. Mirroring is the art of insinuating similarity, which leads to bonding. Labeling is a way of validating someone's emotion by acknowledging it. No starts a negotiation, it reveals a person's true needs and intentions. Once the counterpart says, that's right, they have truly embraced what you have said as their reality. Calibrated questions make your counterpart solve your problem, because it's gonna force them to just do that, If I'm just thinking about just some hostage negotiation, like I'm willing to have a car, how should I be doing that? Then they're gonna be like, well, you could phone your fucking FBI fuckers and just give us a car. And then they've actually solved your fucking problem. And that's it. I think it's actually pretty good. Maybe I'm gonna do that. Just been thinking if I could be doing this in an exam, if it would actually be working. But I think saying some things like, how should I be doing this? It's probably not going to be the right thing to ask, but things like, I don't know, have to think about it. Finding the black swan and the powerful unknowns is difficult. Once uncovered, they are leverage multipliers. But yeah, with that being said, I really hope that you've had a good time. I really hope that you've liked it. And this is the end of the episode. So I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to be a good person. 3 other questions that I'm having for you are, why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? So please consider subscribing to the podcast and to the YouTube channel. And I'm going to see you the next time. I at least hope.